Welcome everyone to this session about optimizing operator effectiveness. We see this as getting more and more important to put more focus on the actual humans in the loop, not only on the technology and the equipment. This is the agenda for this session. I'm going to try to explain why it's important to focus more on the operator and operator effectiveness, a little bit about market trends, and what operator effectiveness means for ABB. A few words about control center and control room design, and then a summary. Why is it important to focus on operator and operator effectiveness? But if you think about it, during a full life cycle, building and designing a plant or an operation might be just 5% of the life cycle. It's during the 95% of the operational phase. That's where you are trying to make money. That's why it's important also to focus in that area. How can we improve the operator effectiveness so that we can minimize the downtime? We can avoid accidents, run safer, and maximize productivity and quality. And as you know, there's been a few accidents the last number of years. BP, for instance, been involved in a couple. It's got a lot of exposure in the media. And we simply can't afford those things to happen. But one of the reasons behind that these accidents actually do happen are because of poor designed operator environment. The operator just doesn't have the right information and the right tools to deal with these type of situations. It has actually been estimated that about 42% of all unplanned shutdown are due to operator errors or human factors. The operators simply didn't have the right information or the wrong information, or didn't have the right means to do something about it. So there's a very important part here also economically. If we look at a little bit about what has happened in the control room and for the operator over the last number of years, and this is a very quickly changing also. The role of the operator has changed dramatically from not needing to have so much education, or he was told to push that button if something happened, or don't push that button if something happens, to today where we are starting to collaborate with a lot of different people, and also a lot of different systems, more sophisticated functions, so that the operator needs today have fairly good skills and also be able to deal with more types of different environments. And one problem we've seen with this now is that by loading on more burden on the operators with more different types of systems, it can be very stressful in the control room. On one hand, when everything is running in automatic, when this control system is doing exactly what it's supposed to do and everything's fine, it can be, on the other hand, to the level of even boring, and we have problems in some control rooms where operators are even falling asleep during the working shifts. And then when something happens, they are not prepared to deal with that situation. They are bombarded with too many alarms, too many different systems that they have to move in between to trying to figure out what's going on and being able to deal with the situation. So you go from a very low stress level to a way too high stress level. So what we feel is important is to try to level this out, keep the operators more alert and more motivated during the whole shift that they're working, and also take down the peaks so that they don't get overwhelmed when something happens. So we have to deal with this whole spectra. And the operators are your most valuable assets, I would say. The operators are making most of the important decisions during the operation. And when they are retiring, it's very crucial that you can transfer the knowledge over to newer and younger operators and that you also have a good working method of training new operators. One problem we have seen with this now is that the younger generation not necessarily are prepared to just take on the responsibilities and the way the older operators has been working. And that's quite normal. We're all familiar with these type of devices now. iPhones, iPads, or similar devices where you simply can operate everything you need from one single device. You don't need to move around between different systems or different keyboards, or you have it all there right in your hand. And you can actually be anywhere you want to do it. And you don't need to read one single page of documentation because it's all intuitive. That's what the younger generation today are used to. Trying to take that generation and move that into the existing control rooms that was designed maybe in the 60s, 70s, it's not possible. So we have to deal with this. These are some issues that we have identified as being part of actually degrading both safety, quality, and profitability. Complex environment with multitude of different systems. I have many pictures like this, and that's unfortunate how it looks in most of the control rooms out there today. You have many different vendors, many different types of systems. They're all put in there at different times, ad hoc. No one's taking ownership. There is no coordination between the different systems. You can see, I like this picture. It's quite a few monitors of different types, and as you can see, not two of them are the same. And no one bothered to make them look the same in any way. They are different size, resolution, colors, positions. So that's completely uncoordinated. That doesn't help the operator. And way too many keyboards. I have better pictures like that. But you also see it on the other side. One process station or operator station, another, based on the process. That's very typical for us, that we get a request from you to put another operator station in there, or 2, 3, based on the process. You're adding a process section here and you're adding a process section there, but you don't think about how is that affecting the operator. The operator already had 12 keyboards, and now you're adding another 3 for him, and now it's up to 15, but it's still only one operator. And this is not acceptable. I mean, you can imagine running back and forth that corridor to operate. So we joke about it, that we probably should provide skates for the operator so that they can be skating or using a skateboard or something. Very, very typical, again, focused on the process and technology, not on the actual operator. And as you can see in both of these pictures, there is no overview. The operator does not know the big picture, what's going on. How does it look before his part that he is responsible for, and how does it look after? If something happened over here or over there, it's going to affect him. But he doesn't know that until the alarm goes off, and he can't transport whatever he's producing out, or he doesn't get the raw material coming in. The operator needs to have an overview. And again, there is no attention to human factors, so you also get an unhealthy working environment. Poorly integrated CCTV and telecom equipment is also a big issue in many control rooms. I've seen a lot of different solutions and ways to work around this. This left picture here is from a waste-to-energy plant in Denmark, which is a fairly new installation. It looks kind of impressive when you walk into that control room and you see all those TV monitors up there on the wall. But think about it, the operator, he's got a different angle into his process. That's what he is responsible for. Anything could go on those screens up there and he would have absolutely no way to identify that. What will happen is that he will get an alarm, and then he might want to look at something, but then he has no connection, no control. He cannot scroll back in time to see what did the camera see, or save off any of the video for later review. It's more there to impress on visitors in the control room, and also possibly for other people walking around, but not necessarily helping the operator. And that's what we also see as an issue. We need to change the way we are designing the control room, so we focus on the operator first and then on other people. Too many keyboards. I don't know if you can see that right picture. You can count to 11, 12 keyboards in 3 different levels. There's absolutely no way you can deal with that in a critical situation. It's quite funny. You ask the operator, how does this work for you? And of course, he's been there since they started, 15 years. So he said, no, I have no problem. The problem occurs when he is retiring. There is no one to replace him. And then it's too late. So you need to start thinking about how can we improve the operator environment so that we can replace him when time comes. And no ergonomic desks. You can see that particular desk there to the right. That was built on site in a little wood shop around the corner, with the only purpose of hosting the computers and the keyboards. Had nothing to do with operators. There is no leg space, nothing is adjustable. And with all the computers in the back there, we have I think I have a later picture showing that, a big mess of cables and things. And so we end up with a situation here with computers. They generate heat, they generate noise, and they require maintenance from the IT department. And with all the mess behind there, the cleaning crew refuses to touch it. So you have also a very dirty and unhealthy environment. This is an iron ore operation also, so it's dirty by itself outside. It needs even more attention. Poor lighting, poor noise level, everything is just not designed for the operators, for the human beings to work in. Then we have some other extreme cases, large display walls, quite popular in some industries and some areas. But unfortunately, even if that looks nice and clean, is not typically put in there for the operators. That is typically put to impress the shareholders, visitors, management, and so on. The operators are now forced to be spread out over the room to kind of match the wall. So they are disconnected from each other, as well as that it is disconnected from the actual information on the wall, because they can't read it from the distance where they are. Making it very, very difficult for us to come in and make a good layout of this control room. And you end up wasting more floor space than, if you transfer that into money, would have paid the whole control system and all good furniture and everything combined, if you would have done this in a little different way. We also have a typically poor collaboration environment. Again, they are spread out, they can't communicate, or they're too close and then they disturb each other. So collaboration is important, but you have to do it in the right way. If you're putting more operators in the same room, you have to make sure that you take measures so that they don't disturb each other, and that you have ways to deal specifically in critical situations. And you don't want the control room to turn into a gathering or social place where people are coming in to discuss yesterday's football or baseball, because that's the nice place in the facility. That's the room where you have the nicest chairs, and you have typically also some kind of desk where you can sit down and drink coffee. And the poor operator is trying to pay attention to what's going on, and there are no good means of actually seeing the status, so no one knows what's going on in the room. That's what we refer to as situation awareness. It's important that when you walk into a control room, that you can see what status each operator are working in, and the operators amongst themselves also can be fully aware of the situation. So to summarize this part, this background, it's quite obvious when you present it like this, that that's the old way, the common way That's used in, I would say, at least 80% of all control rooms. But that's the past. That's what no one wants to be. We want to be in this type of environment where one word could say it all: harmony. You want to have an environment where the operators are coming in because they want to go to work. They love to go to work. An environment where you can collaborate, where you can relax, work in a very relaxed way, where you have a very good understanding of the situation. I hope you can see that. The operator over here has got a green light over her. The other operator there's got a yellow, indicating that she is under some kind of situation where she doesn't need to be or must not be disturbed. And this is how it looks in the back. Again, that's how it looks. And you can go out and look in your own control rooms. Most of you will probably recognize this. But that's not where you want to be. I'm saying that no computers in the control room. They should be in a controlled environment with air conditioning. You should avoid this type of consoles and mess of cables to something where you can actually maintain the control room clean all the time. Not only just the first day or the first week. It should look like that year after year. You should be able to have the cleaning crew come in and keep it nice and clean. We've got that common many times when people are visiting us we have a future operations center in Sweden. They'll come in and say, wow, this is clean. But then they say, but this is not a control room. And yes, it is. We're sitting there working every day, and we have visitors, 2 or 3 groups a day. We have people all the time. We've been open since 2009. We keep it clean because it's possible, and we put high priority on keeping it clean. And we have done installations where we have shown that it's possible in any types of environment. So a little bit about market trends. We talked a lot about consolidation throughout the arena show and so on here. Centralization, consolidation, and collaboration are 3 words that you should pay attention to. Centralization means that instead of having spread out operators in each individual part of the plant, you put them more together. That way you can gain a lot from that. They can learn from each other. They can have job rotation. They can be much more effective just by working together, understanding the rest of the plant. I'm not saying that you need to do this just because you need to cut down on operators, because the main part here is to make sure that you work more effectively. Consolidation is kind of similar. Consolidating not only the operators, but also the rest of the functions. A very strong trend in combination with the next one here, remote operation, is something we see within oil and gas. We also see it in mining. And I would say specifically in South America. It's very interesting to follow what they're doing down in Chile in particular. Because they have discovered that it's not effective to have operators working up in the mining facilities 2,000, 3,000, 4,000 meters up in the desert where absolutely nothing lives. It's dead. And the people normally live along the coast, most of them down in Santiago, which is about 2,000 kilometers away from these facilities. So you have to transfer people up, you have to build camps, you have to have them stay there maybe for a couple of weeks to work very hard, and then they go home and so on. But this wears on people. This is not effective. So what they're doing now is that they are putting attention to how can they change the way they're operating. So they build more what we call collaboration centers closer to where people live. And then they operate remotely. And now they can start putting engineers, operators, maintenance, management people together in the same environment. And they become so much more effective. They can deal with predictive maintenance in a completely different way than before, because everyone is involved in what's going on. And we know it's possible with today's technology. For one of the projects I was involved in Chile, we started up the first phase of that project completely remotely from Santiago. There was 2,000 kilometers away. So over fiber optic cables, we were running in EOW in their headquarter of the customer on the 5th floor in one of the skyscrapers down in Santiago, starting up the plant up in the desert. So it's possible. So remote operation, more focus on predictive maintenance. And if you see in the arena show, we talk about that a lot in there. Fix it when it's broke. It doesn't cut it anymore. You have to make sure that you have people dedicated to work remotely to discover when things are about to happen or before it happens, so that you can take measures so it doesn't really affect the operator at all. Mobility, of course. Now when you have the centralized control room, people working on a long distance, they need to communicate with field operators as well. And field operators can walk around in the plant and have access to all the information that they need in their hand, either if it's a phone or a pad or what it is. And the centralized operation now with the collaboration with maintenance engineers and management, they can provide all the necessary information to this handheld device remotely just by sending over the right information, the right instructions. They can even have video conferencing so they can see each other when they are communicating. All this is possible today. So this is different now. We are starting with the operator, starting about looking at how should we operate, and then we apply the technology on top of that instead of the other way around. Simulation and operator training is also a very big trend we see. It's just very crucial that the operators are prepared for situations before they happen. They should be able to train continuously and get the proper training. Unfortunately, that doesn't happen in many operations. Very little money are spent on keeping the operators up to par with changes that are made in the process and new equipment and so on, new regulations. Very important that the operators are prepared, can simulate and feel comfortable when something happens. They know the situation. It's like you don't want to go up in an airplane with a pilot that never flew in that type of plane before. Same thing here. You don't want to have an operator operating a refinery that doesn't know what he should do if something happens. You need to be prepared. And adoption to standards. This is also something that is starting to grow quite rapidly. And there's always been regulations and standards for certain things, but what has not been so much focus on is actually the humans. But that's what's happening now. It kind of started, I would say, a little bit up in where I'm coming from in Scandinavia. It's been, for many years, been very important to focus on the operators and the human beings, providing the right means of how you're sitting, your chair, your desk, what lighting, noise level, and everything that affects you. But those standards that has been worked out specifically, I would say, in the oil and gas industry in Norway, is now spreading to other industries and also around the world to all regions. So it's becoming more and more important that you have to follow these regulations and standards. So we put a lot of effort into this now from ABB, making this very important for us, because we believe if we can help you improve your operations, you are actually going to buy more from us. So we're going to create a win-win situation here. You will be more satisfied, you will get more productivity, more safety and quality. And I'd like in these type of projects to talk about how much money can we actually save you rather than trying to sell your products with a steep price tag. That's not the dialogue I want. I want to talk about how much money can we save you, because you're going to have less need for training. You're going to have, because of less turnaround, the operator is going to stay longer, so that you don't necessarily have to retrain all the time. And we can help you to design your control rooms in such a way that not only we can deal with the situation today, but also into the future. Expansions, modifications. We are good at this. That way we can help you. So if you look at over the total life cycle, typically we can save you a lot of money. And that can justify the more expensive operator consoles, the more expensive chairs, better lighting, and better conditions in the control room. Everyone is going to win from this. So we're putting a lot of effort into this. We see this as a very strong vision for us to maintain the thought leadership in this area. We started way before all the competition to think about how we can optimize the operator environment. Before and still, the focus has been on the technology, on the products, not so much on the humans. So we are now focusing. This is one good example. It's a very prestigious university in London, where they have built a kind of mini factory, or say facility plant. It's for CO2 capture, where we put in a good working environment, training the students to work in this type of environment, making them prepared to take on these type of jobs once they are finished with school. So without exaggerating, I'm saying that ABB are putting more focus on the operator and the operator environment than anyone on the market. And we see this as one of the major drivers for us also to increase our sales. So it's a good thing for both of us. So we see this as we say here, it's like a revolution. It's a change in how we're going to operate. And this is, if I'd shown this a couple of years ago, people would have probably not really recognized it or understood it. But today it's quite common now. This is the type of solutions that we are working with. This particular one has been designed as part of a discussion we have with one of the world's largest mining companies that have operations in I would say around the world. And as you can see here, we are combining now different roles. So we have operators, we have engineers, maintenance people, also being able to have the management to work. We can deal with critical situations. We can deal with visitors coming in. We have relax areas, maybe with exercise bikes, and also where you can sit and take a cup of coffee, but still with full access to all of the operation to be aware of what's going on. So this is kind of what we're working with today, not just fulfilling the requirement that you are telling us we want you to quote another 2 or 3 operator stations. We want to redesign the whole way of operating from now and into the future. Because it's going to be required for you to do this if you're going to be able to attract the younger generation to come and work in these facilities. So the sooner we can start with this type of work, the better off we're going to be. And then of course I have to say a few words about 800XA, which is our kind of backbone in this. You need to have a collaborative process automation system, a CPaaS system, to be able to do what I'm talking about. 800XA is not just a DCS system. It's also an integration platform for all relevant data for all disciplines in the plant. Depending on who you are when you log in, the system can adapt completely to your needs. And that also, as you're going to see in coming releases, also affecting the actual environment, where we can just by having you log in, automatically adjust the desk to your physical requirements, distance to screen, level of the alarm speakers, the actual lighting, because we're all different. We have different needs when it comes to, or different vision, different hearing, and so on. And the 800XS system itself is built, again, as a collaborative process automation system, and for the operator provides all the necessary tools that are needed. Being able to deal with overview displays, different formats of displays, from a large overview down to individual screens, and also scalable down to single screens. Alarm management built into the system so that you can work on providing a better environment. You cannot starting to build these nice control rooms that I showed you here unless you have a good alarm management system. The operators don't want to have the ceiling starting to change color every 2 seconds because you have different alarms coming all the time. You need to work on this so that it goes hand in hand to create a good environment. And I do hope that you have or will go and take a look at the automation arena where we are demonstrating a lot of what I'm talking about. So you put it a little more in context. So just so you understand the importance that we've put into this, we put a lot of effort to build the arena, reused it. We built it for Houston last year. We're reusing it here. We have reused it in Sao Paulo last year, in Budapest last year. We go into China, Beijing in May. And we're also building up permanent demonstration facilities, learning zones as we call them. The most sophisticated one is built in Abu Dhabi that you can go and visit. But we also have one in Houston. Some of you probably might have been there. And we are continuing to build in other countries. We have also started what we call a first team initiative. And first is really an indication of that we want to be first when it comes to discuss your projects, your future projects. It's not feasible, again, for neither one of us to come in and talk about operator effectiveness and human factors late in the project, because then it's not going to happen. Then we're going to end up with the same type of control rooms, the same type of mess that you've seen in these pictures. You have to do this up front. You have to start with the operators and focus on the environment, and then build from there. And then we can together gain. So the first team is now that's a couple of experts from CGM that goes out. Right now we have 16 different countries that we are traveling around this year. We've been in the US in the beginning of the year. We'll probably go back towards the end of the year again. And help you to get started with designing your control rooms, looking at what you have today and coming up with ideas of how you can improve it so that we can help you to plant seeds in your projects. And then we end up with a kind of customer event where we invite customers to like a workshop where we present our ideas and can work together. So this is a very, very good opportunity to get in contact with us and start working on these type of projects. I mentioned the Future Operations Center in Sweden, and it's been in operation since 2009, and we've had a lot of customers, and we still have. They're just coming in, and it's quite impressive actually to just, if you look at the mining industry again in South America, almost all of the major big companies have been over to meet us. So we deal with all parts, a lot of different types of live video integrations. We show different types of camera systems, infrared cameras, automatic detection of things, that the camera can detect and then automatically can send alarms to the system that can then bring up the right information, the right camera, the right, maybe a map showing exactly where the problem is, and also a public address system that is coordinated with this. Very nice place to, if you are very serious about your future, you should come. Of course, maybe you first will go to Houston to see what you have, but if you really want to talk about the whole environment, you should come and see us. Just a few words also about CGM. You probably seen that they are also part of our booth, and last year ABB acquired part of that company, so they are a very tight partner to us, but they don't only work with us, they can provide furniture to others as well. But with ABB they have taken it one step further and also together built products like the EOWX, as you can see down in the arena. It's been built by CGM together with ABB. And they are very good when it comes to control room design. They are absolutely in the forefront when it comes to using the latest technology to design rooms. I don't know if you've been down in the booth seeing their holograms that they have. That is just amazing. It's like a plate that you can, just by putting light over it, you can see how your whole control room is going to look like in 3D. It's almost so you get angry at it because you want to grab it, but it's nothing there. It's so realistic, and it's all based on starting with designing the control room in Google SketchUp and then transferring it into a model and then making a hologram of it. This way you can have a model without needing to have any computers or anything. You can very easily show everyone in your plant how your control room or control center is going to look like before you even start to build it. They can help you to make feed studies. We do a lot of pre-studies in control rooms, specifically, let's say, with BP, for instance, where after they had their accidents, they want us to come in and actually look at how are they operating today and what's needed to be able to be more safer in the future. So they send their experts making a report, detecting exactly what different tasks and how things are today and what's needed to be done for the future. So they have access to human factor specialists that can make reports and get your design certified. Again, they use Google SketchUp as the main tool, and then they have other software also that can transfer everything into 3D models, to holograms, but also you can put it as an app on your iPad, and you can walk around like a computer game, walk around the whole environment very easily. We can show you all of this down in the booth, how this works. So it has made it so much easier now to communicate and to design without having to put a lot of effort in paying expensive architects and consultants to design this for you. And then when you need to make a change, then you have to pay them a lot more to change it again. Now we can have a much easier and tighter communication. Google SketchUp is a free piece of software that you can download from the internet, and that's what happens now a lot of times. Maybe we come up with a first idea, send it over to the customer, who can then continue to make changes themselves, and we get a much quicker process here. We can save tremendous amount of time in the projects to come up also with a solution that everyone agrees to, instead of as it has been a lot of times, because it's been more harder to have the operators themselves maybe involved in the projects. And the extended operator workplace, I'd like you to come down and see for yourself. It's the best. It's built based on experience, based on feedback that we have collected over the last 10 years, what's needed to be able to operate effectively. It has, for instance, one single keyboard where you can operate your whole operator environment. If you need, you can pull up a second or a third keyboard. You can be 2 or 3 people working there in critical situations during startup and so on. But during normal operation, you can do everything from one single keyboard. You have integrated lighting, sound, and also very soon, as you can see here and there, microventilation. We will be able to control the temperature zone around each operator as well, because we know that the HVAC system is a big issue for many of you. Some people, some operators are too cold, some are too hot, and it's hard to maintain it properly. And you're a lot of time ending up wasting a lot of energy in your control room. So we can help you with that as well. And everything when it comes to lighting, sound, noise absorption, and so on. So to summarize, more cost-effective operation with fewer operators. And I say that because that's the way it's going to be. ARC has estimated that within, I can't remember exactly the number of years, but in 5, 10, 15 years from now, there will only be half the number of operators available, because the younger generation today are studying other things in school. They are simply not prepared to work as engineers and work as operators. So that's statistically discovered. So you're going to have to work with fewer operators, meaning that you have to have a more effective operation. But also safer operation with a better overview of the process, knowing what's going on, knowing what you can do when something happens, and keeping the operators more alert. We work very closely, for instance, with one of the universities in Sweden, Chalmers, out of Gothenburg. You went there, right? Yes? Yeah. Peter's been to that school, so he knows. And they are in Gothenburg, and that's the hometown of Volvo also. So just so you know, this department that we work with, they have worked very closely with Volvo to develop their working environment in the cars. So they know what they're doing. So we ran a big program last year where we invited a lot of different operators to come and sit and actually work in a realistic environment with a full-blown factory. It was a paint factory with a full-blown simulation, and then we'll let them run in a traditional environment versus our more high-tech environment with a little more interference or interaction with the environment, and then we could see how that affected the operators in terms of response, and also how they felt about their work. And that was very easy to measure, to see that of course the operator felt a lot better in a better environment than in a more traditional. So we're going to continuously work in this area. So with that, I'd like to thank you.